going to break down a really powerful argument about a deep, fundamental hypocrisy in our society. It's all about sacrifice, gratitude, and a level of respect that, according to the source we're exploring, seems to be dangerously forgotten.
And this quote, wow, it just gets right to the heart of the whole thing, doesn't it? It lays out this really stark contradiction. How is it possible that a life that starts with total dependence on a woman's sacrifice can somehow lead to a worldview that devalues women? That's the big question we're going to unpack together.
Okay, so let's dive right in. And to do that, we have to go back to the one experience every single person shares. I don't care who you are or where you're from, we all share the very, very beginning of life.
Now, the material we're looking at breaks this down into two really foundational steps. First up, you've got the sacrifice of birth itself, an experience of immense pain, danger, and love, all carried by a woman. And then, right after, step two, the immediate care for survival. You know, when a baby is completely helpless, crying from hunger or fear, it's a woman who provides the food, the safety, the comfort, often giving up her own sleep and well-being to do it.
And that brings us to the first really crucial point here. Our entry into this world isn't just a neutral event. It's made possible by a profound physical sacrifice. You could even say it's a debt of existence that we all owe from the moment we take our very first breath.
And then, immediately after that, our most basic needs, the things that literally keep us alive from one moment to the next, are met by a woman's care. Food, warmth, safety. These aren't just abstract ideas. They are real, tangible acts of giving that make sure we survive.
So okay, if we all start out this way, completely dependent, on the receiving end of all this sacrifice and care, you've got to ask, what happens next? And this is where the argument takes a sharp turn, suggesting that as a society, it's like we developed this strange kind of amnesia. And here it is, that jarring disconnect laid out side by side. On one hand, our origin story is one of total, complete dependence. But on the other hand, you have this societal attitude that's often dismissive, sometimes even derogatory. The point here is that there's a deep, illogical crack running right between these two realities. The source actually gives this a name, ingratitude. And it's not just some simple oversight. It's described as a fundamental forgetting of where we come from and the kindness that allowed us to even be here. It's like a societal amnesia that lets this huge contradiction just exist. And, this whole dynamic, it doesn't just stop at infancy. The argument is that this pattern, this reliance on women's labor, followed by a failure to even see it, it just keeps going, extending throughout our daily lives. Just think about it for a second. What truly makes our homes and our communities run? It's what this perspective calls invisible work. All the childcare, the school runs, the caring for elderly parents, the emotional support. This isn't just a simple to-do list, right? Each one of these things represents a continued sacrifice of time, energy, and opportunity. It's like this essential engine running in the background that's rarely ever counted, but if it stopped, everything else would just grind to a halt. And that's really the key. This isn't some optional extra work. It's the very glue holding our social fabric together. And yet, because so much of it is unpaid and happens behind the scenes, it goes unacknowledged. And because it's unacknowledged, it's undervalued. So all of this brings us to the core conclusion of the argument. If we accept this idea of a foundational sacrifice and all this ongoing invisible work, then what's the right response? And, just as important, what about the justifications that are sometimes used for disrespect? So let's talk about how this disrespect sometimes gets justified. Often it's by pulling specific phrases completely out of their cultural or religious context. We're going to look at one of those examples right now, the phrase half-intellect, because this perspective offers a really crucial clarification on what it actually means. Right here, you can see the huge difference between a misused phrase and its real context. The source points out that within Islamic tradition, this term is not a judgment on a woman's intelligence at all. It actually comes from a very narrow legal text. And in contrast, the core religious texts, like the Quran, specifically honor a mother's hardship. And the Prophet Muhammad himself is quoted as saying that the best people are the ones who are best to their families. Which all leads to this incredibly powerful conclusion. When you consider the debt of life and the constant care we all receive, equality isn't some kind of favor you do for women. It's just basic honesty. It's being honest about where we came from, honest about the work that keeps us going, and honest about what is truly owed. So we're left with this one last, really provocative question.
To receive the ultimate gift of life from a woman, only to then turn around and call women inferior, is that really an act of strength? Or is it just a profound act of forgetting?
Ultimately, the argument concludes that there's really only one decent, logical, and truthful response to this reality: respect, gratitude, and equal dignity. It's a simple but incredibly powerful call to just remember where we all came from.